Thank you very much for this opportunity to come and make this presentation to you. It is both an honor and a privilege to stand before you today on the subject that is increasingly shaping international relations in this century, which is the role of culture in foreign policy or in diplomacy. As we are talking now, there are teams that are playing, and that is an example of cultural diplomacy. We have known of the Olympics because they have something to bring together humanity, even when, or in the areas of creative industry, they are meant to bring emotional happiness, even though sometimes you find yourself crying, but you're crying because of the story that has captivated you. My topic today is the role of culture in Namibian foreign policy toward Germany and the European Union, which I presented here. Because we often think of diplomacy in the form of treaty agreements, political negotiations, and security alliances. Yet, behind those formal instruments lies more enduring and a powerful force. And that force is culture. Why? Because culture shapes how nations understand themselves and how they are understood by others. Because it carries value. Our memories, our traditions, and aspirations across the border. Now, if you look at the meaning of cultural diplomacy, it is basically the use of culture to promote and reinforce national identity and strengthen international relations. Because it is through culture that people are connected long before governments sign agreements and long after the political leaders have left offices. Now, since culture shapes the perception, values, outlooks, now diplomats' approach to international relations are often influenced by the environment in which they have developed, including their educational background, professional experiences, and the challenge they have faced in carrying out their respective responsibility. Now, an important component of foreign policy is soft power, which is now representing the culture, which encourages mutual understanding, which I have spoken to, dialogue, and cooperation. Because if you have to cooperate, and even in diplomacy, you need to understand the culture of your negotiating partner or cooperative partner, so that you avoid certain body language or even behavior that might kill what you are about to negotiate. So it is very important that you have that understanding. Culture serves as both a bridge and a challenge in diplomatic relations. While culture engagement can foster mutual understanding, trust, and cooperation, unresolved historical issues and cultural differences might complicate diplomatic interaction if not managed through open dialogue and mutual respect. So you need to understand that culture is very important. I remember there was a time the African countries were referred to, I cannot mention the word. Now just imagine if you can be referred to such, but tomorrow you are expected to sit with the person referring you to such. You know, there is a misconception that when you have power, you can do whatever you like. Of course, it has been in the Marian and the Athenians' time. But there is one thing you have to know. There are woods, historical wood, that can be created because of something you do today. It will reverberate in 100 years to come. So culture is powerful, and you need to understand it as such. Now, what are the presentation objectives of this? The one is the examination of the role of culture in Namibia's foreign policy. Because as I say, Namibia is a rich nation in cultural diversity. Our many communities, languages, traditions, and artistic expression and the historical experiences form an essential part of our national identity. So therefore, culture plays an important role in Namibian foreign policy, given the background that I have just narrated. Because they serve as a tool for diplomacy, international cooperation, national identity promotion. Since gaining independence in 1990, Namibia only gained its independence in 1990, after a war that has started of national resistance that started in 1904 to 1908, which ended with a genocide committed, and then the liberation struggle that started in the 60s, and they culminated to the independence of Namibia in 1990, to be precise, on the 21st of March, 1990. So you can imagine a generation that was born during this period. The cultural perspective was shaped by this experience that we live in. It has created wounds that are yet to heal. But even out of that extraordinary experience, which was painful, we see hope on the horizon without forgetting the painful past, but we are ready to cooperate so that our children and their succeeding generation do not experience what our ancestors and ourselves have experienced. So, the second one is promotion or promoting national identity and heritage. Now, in this regard, culture serves as an important source of soft power. It allows nations to influence through attraction rather than cohesion. It's very important. And let this be a lesson for those who feel with power you can coerce. You are not going to solve problems. When you coerce, you create internal historical wound that will not heal. So Namibia uses this culture to showcase diverse ethnic group, language traditions, art, historical heritage on the international stage. Cultural event, exhibition, festival, and artistic exchange help project a positive image of Namibia and strengthen international reputation. Because when you are known as a country that is peaceful, that is stable, that is conform to the normative expectation and contribute positively, no matter how small you are, your reputation will remain untainted. Because you have created that culture where everybody respects you because of who you are, because of what you represent. Now, it also strengthens bilateral relations. Cultural diplomacy supports Namibia's relation with the key partners. Here we have Germany. I'm here to represent Namibia. All it is hope and aspiration, everything with it, including our cultural. And then, of course, we have the European Union. We have Angola, which is our neighbor, Botswana, South Africa, China, and others. And when we engage, we see cooperations. We don't see conflict. Because we believe even our constitution has mandated us to pursue peaceful means and encourage settlement of dispute by peaceful means, that a culture stems from our constitutions, and that is teaches us to be a peaceful nation. Now, we also have, as I said, Namibia came from a difficult past. There are realities that we have to face. You cannot ignore them. And it was Morgenthau who said, the world, imperfect as it is, from the rational point of view, is as a result of forces that are inherent in human nature. To change the world, you have to work with those forces, not against them, unquote. So, this is how we feel that this is a projection of our culture, so that people will know us, that, and we also know we are dealing with the world made up of forces that are inherent in human nature. Supporting regional and international cooperations. Through participation in organizations like the Southern Africa Development Community, SADC, the African Union, UNESCO, Namibia promotes cultural exchange, heritage conservation, and intercultural dialogue. This effort contributes to regional integration and international cooperation, because we want to be with the world. We do not want to be isolated, but we believe that as humanity, we are one. We have the same hope, we have the same aspiration. Our children all want to dream And when they go to bed, they all want to be told a story before they close their eyes to sleep. And it's happened everywhere. So we cannot detach ourselves from international community. We are part and parcel of international community. Then advancing soft power. Because this is a soft power that make people or attract people. So therefore, it does not offend anybody when you show your cultural perspective or what you are. Supporting development goals, because you know, with that Namibia integrate culture into the broader development and foreign policy objective, our cultural industry, creative industry, art, tourism, and the heritage conservations contribute to economic development, employment creation, and the international cooperation programs. Then they also, there's also a burden of cultural diplomacy. That is from African perspective. Now I want to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. I can tell you, to be an African diplomat is not easy. Why is it not easy? It's not easy because African countries frequently engage in cultural diplomacy within a global environment that's still shaped by historical inequality and persistent stereotypes. Too often, African culture continues to be viewed through lenses of outdated narrative of poverty, conflict, dependency, exoticism, rather than being recognized as dynamic, innovative, and contemporary contributor to global civilizations. That is the burden. As an African diplomat, including myself, and I'm saying this from the experience, or scholars, or artists, cultural practitioners, they frequently find themselves performing a dual task. They must not only promote cultural cooperation and dialogue, but also challenge misconception and advocate for equal recognition of African perspective and experience. This is a reality. I'm not just taking it out of my thumb. You sit in the room and the person has already judged you, even before he or she knows you or even has seen your potential. So that is a burden that we carry. And that weight sometimes make it as strong, even though it might be painful. But I think we need a world when we see, you know, every time I am inspired, when I read the preamble to the Charter of the United Nations, we, the people of the United Nations, determined to save the succeeding generation from the scourges of war, which in our lifetime, which has brought sorrow, which twice has brought sorrow in our lifetime. But sometimes when actions are taking place, you ask yourself, are we included in the we, or we are excluded? Now, prejudices and persistent stereotype, I think this is what I have said. I cannot repeat them. Over expectation and reciprocity. Now, as an African, you might have mineral resources, your partners would want you to bend your laws, even when those laws have their roots in the Constitution. But if you turn the table around, nobody wants to bend even their legislations. But you are expected to bend your constitutions. Is that equality we talk about? So therefore, these are challenges that we faced. Then the broader challenge of power imbalance and the cultural relations. This is exactly what I'm saying, where you have those with power and they lecture you. And when you are lectured to the point that tomorrow the same incident that you were being lectured is happened, and when you ask questions, they say, no, these things. I mean, I was very shocked when I heard the prosecutor for the International Criminal Court. He said, yeah, I have one developed countries telling me that the ICC was not created for us. It was created for thugs and Africans. Now, you can just imagine, the Africans are also thugs because they are put in the same group. Now, you are expected, when you go to an event, you smile. But there is a wound which might be a mortal wound that has been inflicted. Then the key cultural cooperations. I think with Germany, we have cultural exchange program, we have academic partnership and scholarship, heritage and museum collaboration. With the European Union, we have cultural and creative sector support, youth and educational exchange, joint project, promoting diversity and inclusion. Then benefit, of course, from Namibia, strengthen diplomatic relations and increase cultural visibility, economic cooperations through tourism and the creative industry for Germany and with the European Union, greater understanding of African culture, stronger people-to-people, and enhance international cooperation. Now, challenge and opportunity, of course, limited funding and cultural initiative, unequal access to cultural platform, balancing heritage and preservation with modernization. Now, opportunities, digital cultural diplomacy, because now the world is going digital. And of course, you find the very innovative youth who are using these tools to tell their story. And the youth engagement and exchange, expand a cultural and creative industry, and gender and greater collaboration and heritage and reconciliation project. So then recommendation, what do we have to recommend out of this? Now the recommendation that I can come up with is that increase investment in cultural diplomacy, strengthen institutional partnership, and engage in educational and artistic exchange, promote Namibia's cultural industry internationally, utilize digital platform. Now, from the conclusion, I think I have to re-emphasize that the world is increasingly characterized by the division, uncertainty, misunderstanding. Cultural offer a pathway toward greater dialogue and reconciliation. Cultural serve as a beacon of hope, guiding humanity to illuminate the way towards a better world we aspire and to create. It is also enable nations to engage one another not only as political actors, but also as communities and the people with histories, value, dreams, and aspiration. Namibia's experience demonstrates that culture can serve as a bridge between continents, between society, between generations. It can strengthen our relation with Germany and the European Union while contributing to broader objective of peace, development, and international cooperation. Now let us therefore continue to invest in culture as a force of understanding, as a vehicle for partnership, and a foundation for a more inclusive and interconnected world. With these few words, I thank you. And I conclude with a picture of the international community coming together, and they let it live to the purpose for which it declares itself, to serve succeeding generation from the scourge of war, and let peace reign.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. I would now like to invite questions and comments from us. We're very happy to have Africa in the spotlight again. I think you were first happy, and then we'll come to the... Please introduce yourself as well.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for the wonderful presentation. I was also very pleased to see the speech and also the pictorial display that accompanied your speech. That is very interesting and attractive. I'm very happy that you talked about SADC in your presentation. And I know that there is very strong intercultural connectedness between SADC countries. And that should be something that should make SADC countries and their citizens closer. But with the situation in South Africa right now, the xenophobic attacks targeting fellow Africans and Southern Africans in particular, do you think cultural diplomacy has some limits? If yes, what do we need to do to make it better so that we could use cultural diplomacy to deal with some of the situations like what we see in SA currently? And number two relates to soft power, and I want to connect it to our national branding. I'm very proud that I come from the SADC, and I know that SADC is perhaps the most stable sub-region in Africa, and I know Namibia's democracy is really strong relatively in the region. But under national branding, we also talk about things that might make other people look at your country or your region as not as attractive as you may want it to be. And we shouldn't, I mean, as you say that we need to tell the truth. I have issues sometimes when I see the situation in Zimbabwe, for example, and that we are also perceived, I know corruption is everywhere, but those elements of corruption and failing democracies, like the situation we see in Zimbabwe, just to give an example, and that we seem not to be speaking with one voice within SADC. Don't you think these are some of the opportunities that are there, like low-hanging fruits, that we could use to pursue our agenda with regard to like inflows of foreign direct investment? And quickly, maybe just a comment on how are you countering this narrative that the San people in Namibia are marginalized? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. There are three questions, and I tackle them as you have asked them. One, I am a Namibian and I'm a diplomat. I really don't like speaking on behalf of countries that I do not represent. But I'm a citizen of SADC and I'm a citizen of Africa. Now, I will try to walk a thin line between diplomat and as a citizen. Now, first of all, we have ascribed to the SADC principles, and we have also ascribed to the African Union. What does these two institutions preach? Is unity, that we are first and foremost African. SADC is pursuing a project of regional integration. Now, every country that have ascribed to those principles is supposed to live by what it has signed up to. Because you cannot exempt yourself from the principles that you have committed to undertake. Now, there are citizens, and citizens are led, and it is encompassed to the leaders to assume their responsibility and able to guide those who are getting out. So I don't think the SADC or African Union's principles are to be contradicted, because if we contradict them, then it will be a waste of our time. Then coming to the second question, it is almost related to the same. Again, here I'm saying we have institutional coherence that are supposed to guide us. You are from the SADC country. I'm sure you are from Malawi. You are from Malawi, eh? Okay. We have governance, and what we strive is to strengthen infrastructure for peace, starting even the way we conduct elections. There are procedures to be followed, but these procedures do not execute themselves. They are supposed to be followed. But we also have to understand that every country is sovereign in its own right. So we should rather start to educate ourselves, and we start with the young people so that when they grow up, they understand that we need to live in peace rather than in perpetual conflict. Now, the third question on the sun. Namibia, all the citizens of the countries have equal rights. There is nobody should be marginalized. I don't even know where that sentence or where that concept comes from. But of course, it is there. And I'm also saying here, I'm speaking as an ambassador of Namibia, and I'm speaking as a citizen of the country. First, the Constitution is our guiding principles, and they have guaranteed equality to all citizens. Now, every citizen also has a right to their culture and to their way of living. So the state cannot go and police citizens on how to live, but rather to attract them to say, let us, we must send all our children to school, we must try to include everybody in what we do. Yes, you remember even in the Bible it says when Jesus took the disciples to the garden, he asked them to keep with him while he was going a bit further. And he found them sleeping. Why? He said, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Now, what do we need to do is to recognize our weakness and walk in, we work on our weakness to turn them to strength. I don't dispute what you say, but the Constitution is very clear, and anybody who is marginalizing the other is doing a disservice to the nation.
There's an additional question here. Okay. Please, if you could introduce yourself as well.
Thank you very much. My name is Kemo. I'm from the Gambia in West Africa. Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for your wonderful presentation. You as an ambassador, your role is very critical in cultural diplomacy when it comes to the relation between Germany and Namibia. So I would like to know to what extent can cultural diplomacy contribute to advancing the ongoing dialogue between Namibia and Germany in terms of compensating and justice for the Iraro and the Nama genocide. What also is the level of political pressure back home in Namibia in terms of, because I understood Germany once committed 1.1 billion compensation, which was strongly criticized by the citizens. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The question is very important. First, culture plays a role in educating, in bringing those matters for the people to understand what happened. I remember there was an opera group they called People of Songs. And the story they were relating is within the subject that we are talking about. So it's helped to educate, to make, because many people who are here, they were not born. There was nobody in this room was born when these things happened. But if they are not meant to understand the gravity, then the story can be kept behind the desk. But as they play that educative role, they also open the people's ear. And I think that's where they can help in that negotiations process. Now, your second question was about the reception of the people in Namibia when they heard. You know, because the problem with perception, it's something that can create image of reality. How do you overcome perception? It's because whatever you do it in a way also to think in terms, when I do this, how will it be perceived? Now, if you do it without that understanding, there's always a backlash. So this was brought, and of course it was brought to the parliament, and the parliament refused. So we are back to the drawing board. So it's not something that is completely put aside, but it's something that's being reworked. And I think that's the only thing that I can say, because I cannot get into details, because when negotiations are taking place, you don't disclose the content of negotiations.
Okay, is there a final question here? Also from Zoom, we didn't forget you. If somebody would like to jump in from Zoom, please feel free.
So good afternoon, His Excellency. Thank you for the wonderful presentation. I'm called Noko Jervis. I'm a student here in the ICD. My first question is about tourism or diplomacy in East Africa. As we all know, East Africa, when we speak about Kenya, Ethiopia, Tanzania, the first that comes to mind is tourism, a peaceful place to travel and, let me say, stay. But when you look at Central Africa, that is Chad, Cameroon, and the other nations in Central Africa, it is not that visible as nations in East Africa. So my question is, what are those nations in East Africa, what are they actually doing that those in Central Africa are not doing? And how can the governments in East Africa export their projects and know-how to their counterparts in Central Africa? My second question is about China's role in Africa. I had a conversation with Professor Uli the other time, and after giving a presentation about how Africa is turning to Russia, China, at the end he concluded by telling me that's just the first chapter. And I believe that is true, because maybe Africa, as we know, we don't have a strategy in regards to dealing with, let me say, China, Russia, and the EU in general. So would you, as a diplomat, what would you say? Should we lean to China? Should we stay with the West? Or should we be Africans? And if we are staying as Africans, what are the institutions that are in place to promote our culture, education, our own identity? And if there are no institutions, what do you think the EU should be doing? Because personally, I think the EU is completely absent when it comes to African affairs. For example, in the EU, we have the European Commission that's in charge of promoting culture, and we are seeing the works that they're actually doing. But the EU, maybe ask an average African here who might not know any commission in the EU that's promoting culture in Africa. So your knowledge and expertise, what do you think you can propose to the EU, for example, to handle cultural promotion in Africa?
Thank you very much. The first question. It's about the success in tourism strategy in the countries in the East and versus the country in the Central Africa. You know, I think it's simple, it's strategy. Because you need to bring out your best and sell it. Unique selling proposition. You bring it out. What do you have to offer is this. But then you also have to know that you sell, and then those who have to buy in have to be convinced. There are many things that can convince or can play a critical role toward those people to convince. First, the situation. Is it conducive for me to go into that country? What are the bureaucracy? What are the other factors? I think if I were in that position, then I would ask myself that question. Is there something that they are doing that I'm not doing? So it's a marketing and attraction. I think it's as simple as that. If I have to advise them, I say, learn. But don't copy and paste. Because the problem sometimes, when people say, oh, the other one is successful, they go and copy and paste. Localize that to your own solution, taking into consideration the factor at play. That is the question to your answer. Now, the other question about the African Union strategy to deal with, first of all, in diplomacy, we deal with all countries because that is the promotion of international cooperation. Now, the fact now is on what terms that we are dealing with your partners. That is matters. Because when you are dealing, the first question you need to ask yourself, what is my objective of dealing with that country? What do I want to get out? Now, most of the agreements that are signed have got a time frame. Now, if within that time frame, that agreement has not brought benefit, why will you renew it? So I think this is a question of strategy. It's a question of you to know what you want. But I don't ascribe to the notion that because they are Chinese, we cannot deal with them. Why is Europe dealing with China? So why should Africa be the only one not to deal with that? There's nothing wrong. Should be the term of your engagement. That must be clear. It must be set, measurable, and tangible outcome that benefit, as the Chinese say, win-win. I don't know if I've left another question.
I did mention of the European Commission.
No. The thing is, it is there. It's the question of implementation. Because sometimes we fault either the African Union or the United Nations. The fault is not with the institutions. The fault is with the implementation. There was an African Year of Culture. I don't know whether it was 23 or 20 what. And there were clear resolutions given. So it's up to the member state to implement those resolutions. And even the strategy we are talking of, the African Union has a strategy of partnership. Now, are we implementing that to our advantage?
Okay, maybe a final, we have two questions. All right, the final two questions. Okay, please.
Thank you, Ambassador, for your presence here. I had a question about your role as diplomat to Germany. I am an international relations student, and to be honest, I'm quite ashamed of the fact that it was quite late in my studies that I learned about the participation of Germany's colonization of Africa and their role in colonization and imperialism within Africa. When students learn about this, they learn more about other European nations, and Germany is in many ways pushed to the side or ignored even in the Western world. I'm sure it's very present in African culture, as you were the ones greatly affected by it. So my question is, in your diplomatic role, how do you navigate making it known or confronting certain aspects of German history in a diplomatic way so that African voices and African history is acknowledged and addressed, but coming from a diplomatic position?
Thank you very much. I think I have highlighted this in the presentation to say that a diplomat, you know what your objectives are. Because when you come, you are given a responsibility. There are terms laid out. Of course, it is not A to Z, but you have to work within that framework. But you also have to say, okay, you can see opportunity, you can see. Nobody asked me to come and make a presentation here. But it's because it's within my responsibility, then I will say, okay, I will go there and talk about the cultural diplomacy. And if there is a way that I need to educate young people like you, that is the responsibility that I have to do without causing any harm in the relationship between the two countries, because this is a historical fact, and we are saying we need to cooperate, because we cannot allow this to continue as a milestone tied on our neck. We need to address it and put it aside, then build relation fit for the future, guided by peace, justice and fairness.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Final question?
Hi, Mr. Ambassador. Thank you so much for your speech. It was such an honor to have such a well-spoken person as yourself here. So my question shifts a bit towards the African Union. Sorry? Oh, sorry. My name is Lucia. I'm a Spanish intern here. I study international relations. And my question is, can you give us a bit your opinion on the African Union? What do you think about the regional cooperation that is within? Do you think that it can escalate towards perhaps an economic, more economic community within the African Union and maybe even political as the EU? And what also do you think about, I've heard that, you know, as it is also in the EU, but in the African Union, there's 55 member states, so it's so many. What do you think about the inequalities within here? Do you think there's a hierarchy within countries? And yeah, sorry, that's a lot of questions, but thank you so much.
No, thank you. Qué bueno para preguntar. Okay, now you see the European Union project started long ago. They look into the obstacle and work on what was a challenge so that they overcome those challenges. In African Union, of course, we have the Constitutive Act that also commit us one day to become a powerful union. There are projects, flagship, that have to be undertaken, and there are aspirations also have to be met. Because we say, for us to achieve this, there are certain things that we need to put into correct perspective. Of course, we cannot follow the template of the European Union, but we can use it as a footnote, because the experience of Europe is not the same. Africa never colonized any country, but of course, Europe has benefited from Africa immensely. Even as we are talking now, the museums in Europe are filled with African artifacts. So these are things that we need to say, what is the correct path that we need to follow, so that one day we find ourselves also having this political union. And those flagship are there. There is the African Free Continental Free Trade. Is also one of those that we must trade as a bloc. All those are projects that are taking us to the political union, but as I say, they do not self-execute themselves. They need commitment, they need dedication.
Excellent. On that note, I'd like to first of all ask you all to please help in expressing our sincere gratitude to the ambassador for an excellent presentation.